Dayna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Appreciate you
for
taking a
having me.
ride here. So, one of the questions that I think a lot of our viewers would always ask is one, what is hypnotherapy, and how does it apply to individuals?
So, what is hypnotherapy? Hypnotherapy, there's so many different ways to answer that, but I think the most important is just hypnotherapy is a really natural state that we actually access all the time. We go into hypnotic states before you fall asleep, when you wake up, when you're scrolling, and all of a sudden you're like, what time is it?
2 hours later,
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
happened.
And maybe you bought something, or maybe you feel bad about something, or whatever. You're highly suggestible. So it's this natural thing. Therefore, it feels very familiar. But therapeutically, we're using that state, which is a theta brainwave state. We're using that to take that suggestibility, and instead of being suggestible to the world around you, social media, TV, life, all of that, we're using it to have you be suggestible to what you want, right? The decisions that you really want to make, and the goals that you have. So it's just a heightened awareness and a hypersuggestibility.
Is it accessing a bit of like a subconscious state of like, the way that I'm relating to it a little bit is you always have that voice in the back of your head that's telling you what's right, right? But most people
Hopefully.
yeah, or hopefully, or wrong, right? Or telling you what you want to but how, and I guess the reality of it is that you're kind of tapping into that a bit, right?
Yeah.
And saying, hey, where's this person's thought process around a particular issue topic? Is it a lot of issues? Is it more so like, where is it just like, people go to therapy for, to heal from like a trauma or things like that. Is that what your clients are typically?
It's also, you're exactly correct. It's accessing your subconscious mind. And it's all across the board. So I certainly have a specialty that I see most people in this category, but which would be like anxiety, nervous system regulation, burnout. But I see people from fear of spiders flying to improving their golf game, to getting a raise, to public speaking, to deep-seated childhood trauma and grief, to any area in your life, basically, that is not going the way that you want, or it's plateaued in some way. You know that there's a better way for it to be.
And do you see like a lot of people that are just trying to be like more positive, more like just change just the way that they look at things?
Yeah, okay. Which I think is great. If that's what you're dealing with, that's really excellent. But I certainly have people who just want to wake up more joyful, who want to disengage from the negative talk track that they have, which is subconscious, right?
Yeah.
And it's for a reason. It's not that they're doing something bad or wrong. There's some reason that your mind goes to negative all the time. One, we're hardwired for more negativity to protect us. But two, maybe you grew up in an unsafe home or something happened. And so that subconscious programming, that imprint, is going to have you be negative all the time, right? Okay. And it's not wrong because it's trying to protect you, but it's not necessary anymore. And it's keeping you from your desires and from experiencing joy and being present. So that can absolutely be worked on. So basically you just go into hypnotic states and you give the suggestions, not only giving direct suggestions, but shifting them into feeling that, right? So you're actually like reprogramming it and running that track so that it becomes familiar.
Yeah, that's what I was actually wondering, like the reprogramming end of things. Like I wanted you to explain a little bit more on that. Like how does that work? Like, so you have your set ways, you're raised a certain way, you have certain coaches, teachers, whatever, your product of your environment when you're little, adults now. Like, how does the reprogramming process work?
So the reprogramming happens. So every single person is different. So I could have 6 people in one day that have, let's say, they all want to lose weight, and I will have to approach every single one the same way, or it's going to be pretty flat and generic and not effective. But we get to the heart of it. We talk. The session looks like talking at first, and I'm asking tons of questions to get the color on, like, why is this going on? When did it happen? All of that, and then with that information super tailored to the person in a hypnotic state, I'm using direct suggestion, which is kind of like, it's definitely more profound than when you hear like from the old hypnotherapist, you are getting sleepy kind of thing. But they are direct suggestions about you are feeling more joyful, you are this, you're that. But then more than that is you're creating a felt experience. So I'm coming up with therapeutic imagery and metaphors to start to to dissolve the imprint that they had before that was so familiar, that made sense, and align it with what they want. Not with what I want or with what other people want. That wouldn't work, but what they've said that they came in there for. And so the reprogramming is having the subconscious feel it more than anything else, not just giving the suggestion. And in that feels like truth, because that's what they consciously do want. And it's amazing how it's like all of a sudden transformation takes a moment rather than 10 years in therapy.
Right.
No shade on therapy. I love,
No,
you know,
it
it's great.
doesn't work for everybody.
Exactly. And even when it does,
It's a lot of negativity.
or it's, you know, it's still your conscious mind. So there's a lot of insight, but insight without action is like a car with no gas, or, you know, it's just not going to move the needle. And so this gives you that fuel. This gets you going.
So are you, you know, I think when people think of like being in a hypnotic state, they're like, you know, you ever watch those like funny from like, you know, when we were kids, or I haven't seen it recently, but you know, they were like, somebody gets up and does something crazy and like, you know,
like a stage hypnotist.
yeah, and
or
they like,
something.
like the stage hypnotist. Is that is that real? And two, is that something that like, is that essentially the state of where you're getting people to, of where they're, I don't want to say like on autopilot, but you're able to speak to them and they're, you know, it's registering at a different level.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that might feel, there's different depths and different situations that different depths are most suitable for. So for someone who's quitting smoking versus someone who's dealing with chronic pain, the depth's going to be different. So it doesn't always look that deep.
So can you bring it, like, that's what I wanted to ask you about, that type of stuff. Like, so like a quitting smoking or quitting drinking or quitting some bad habit. Like, so I know the subconscious, like you have that thought, right? You can't control that first thought. Like that's what we're accessing, right? Like you're in a split second, you're trying, not split second, but through your sessions, you're trying to get the triggers. Like, how can you explain that to me? Like, how's that work? Like with the triggering for a bad habit, to reprogram a bad habit.
So we go over what happens for that person, right? So first, because it might be different for everyone, but like I would say, what are your triggers? What happens? What are the thoughts that go through your head? What would you rather say to yourself, right? What's really true for you and what you want in your life? Why? Why do you want that? How does it feel when you have that? How does it feel when you're completely free, breathing fresh air, not like a social pariah smoking in the corner, like all of these things. We get the color on it. And so I know exactly what matters to them, right? And so that's their essence. That's their truth. That's what they really want. It's just coming up against that imprint that at some point, let's use smoking. Smoking was you fit in, you're cool, you're this, you're that. Smoking means stress goes away, whatever the circumstance is, whatever that imprint is. So we are creating what's really true for them. Smoking is embarrassing, unhealthy. I feel so amazing when I'm not smoking. I'm enjoying my grandchildren or whatever it is for them. And then in hypnosis, we break it down. Okay, I might even do something called circle therapy, where we bring the urge up and then we shut it down with all of the reasons why not. We bring it up again, shut it down again. And it's not just like a command, it's that you're feeling the difference, right? You're feeling that life of you being healthy 20 years from now versus, 20 years from now if you were still smoking. It's so clear in hypnosis because you're in such a deep, semi-dreamlike state that it becomes very compelling, right? So if you were to sit with me, and I know I don't think you're a smoker, but if you were to say, I want to quit smoking, and I was like, okay, well, stop. And now think about this and all of that, it would be like, okay, fine, great. But in hypnosis, you are in this dreamlike state where you are so suggestible, like we said, right? You're on Instagram and all of a sudden you're in this other world, or you're watching a movie and it's Brad Pitt, but now you think he's Benjamin whatever, and he's, you get into it. So because of that, because you can have an emotional response that re-imprints you, and so it becomes so much more powerful. Even something like breathing. People say use your breath to calm you down. For most people, that doesn't really work so well. But when you implant it hypnotically, and you have a visceral experience of you being able to downregulate yourself and to be able to anchor in this safety with breath, it becomes so much more potent. So you're really just doing those kind of things. And again, every single circumstance is different, but it's just accessing that deep state of suggestibility.
So let's change gears a little bit. Mm-hmm. How do you how did you find hypnosis or hypnotherapy as like your track?
I was doing something completely different, and career-wise, but I had always had one health issues, and one of the worst symptoms of that, I had autoimmune condition that I was diagnosed with very young, and one of the symptoms was insomnia, and not like a bad night's sleep, like severe insomnia, not sleeping at all, and so for almost my whole life, I was just trying to figure out how to get help, and doing every diet, seeing every doctor, naturopath, everything. And one night I was just like, I can't, late night, not sleeping. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Nothing's working. I've tried everything. And by the grace of something, I just had this weird feeling like, well, that's a lie. You haven't tried hypnotherapy. I was like, okay. So I started like 4 a.m. Googling hypnosis around me. And I was very, very skeptical, but I was way more desperate. So I was like, oh, fine, I'll try this thing, a little hypnosis.
Is this like in your 20s? Like how old are you at this time?
No, this was in my early 30s.
In your early 30s.
So I don't know how many years ago. It had been.
So you were struggling with this for a long time.
Yeah, like this is the only.
And just
thing.
like pulling on strings, trying to figure out how
and
to.
like my eyes are brown. I'm an insomniac. Like so identified with it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of PTSD that comes along with that. Struggling to sleep, and so it was very nuanced. So I was skeptical, but I went because I'll try anything, and it was so life-changing. And I had such a profound experience that I didn't shut up about it forever. And I sent all my friends to do it because I was like, well, maybe I'm just like a one-off,
Yeah.
And so I sent my friends, and one stopped vaping. That was a problem forever. One stopped dating jerks. That was like forever, what was going on with her. One got a promotion that she said she wanted. So I was like, whoa, this is so powerful. And then I was like, for so long, I've always said I wanted to help other people. And this is the one thing that really, really helped me. And so I just got so fascinated with it and thought, let's go. I gotta share this with other people. Is
it like schooling? Is there certifications? Is there like mentorship? Like how does one find, like if you said, oh, I want to be a hypnotherapist, like I couldn't even tell you where to start.
Well,
right?
I didn't know either. I was like, and then it was like the Wild West a bit, but like this one, you're like, does one do this? This one did all of that. This one did the high level of training and the mentorship and the internship and all of that. But it is a really unregulated industry, which is unfortunate. And someone could poke around the internet and take some sort of like a weekend course, or maybe not a weekend, but maybe, really unregulated, and get some sort of a certification, probably a hypnotist. But people don't usually say like, are you a hypnotherapist or are you a hypnotist? It's just, they go for hypnosis, find whatever. So you can get certified for hypnotism without much regulation. I went to the first nationally accredited school in the country, and it was a 2-year program with a 300-hour internship, and then I had mentors, and then I got I'm triple certified. So because it's just, if you don't want to learn in this field, like you're in the wrong profession.
I'm sure it keeps changing too, right? Like I mean, it's evolving. It's evolving and becoming stronger, more.
Yes, and also like the nuances in individuals. It's like you don't want just one school of thought, right? There's all these. There's Ericksonian hypnosis. There's Kapucinian hypnosis. There's direct suggestion. There's so many different ways you can go, and I'd hate to be like a one-track pony with people because not everything works with everybody, and so you want a big toolbox.
Can you tell right away? Like, I mean, after for how many sessions is somebody typically spending with you to have a result? Is it 1? Is it 10? Is it?
So I always say one result, you're going to know why you're there. I mean, one session, you'll know why you're there. So it's not like you have to wait till session 4 to be like, oh, this is doing something. Yeah. Like you'll know session 1. I know I'm going to see this person again. So it does work
for everyone? Like,
well, I'll go into that a little. So it works on, if you're open to it, it will. If you're there because like your wife wanted you to go, I'm not a wizard. Like I'm not going to have much success. But if you want the change, we're going, right? We're going to figure it out. So one session is definitely going to see some change. However, I think it's gimmicky for people, for hypnotists to be like, oh, one session, I'll change your whole life and da-da-da. There are certain things like smoking and nail biting and a few other things that 1 to 2 sessions is really all that's necessary. But most things are about 3 to 6 sessions. And that's like not a lot, right? That's not like I'm a therapist, in therapy for 10 years. So you get fast change, but it would not be in the person's best interest to overload them right away. First session, I want to condition you to hypnosis. So you
understand,
get that you're safe and that like it's not mind control. Like you're
not going to wake up like naked.
Yeah, so like on that thing, like
not usually.
like you said you were skeptical before. Like on that note, like what are some of the people's fears?
Oh,
like to get someone relaxed on that first session, what are you doing?
Well, Gen Z is awesome. They like totally get it. They are like, I think it's becoming much more mainstream, and everyone's just throwing out the word subconscious now. Like, it's the new authenticity. It's the new manifestation. Right?
There's all the breath work and all this stuff that people are doing to kind of get themselves in these like relaxed states, and I think it's kind of a derivative of that, right?
Yeah, but they kind of get it, and unfortunately, they're throwing subconscious out so kind of lackadaisical.
Sure.
You're like, well, it wasn't really the subconscious, but they still get it, and so that's really easy. But I will say, and millennials, we do pretty well too. We just want to make sure we still have control, which I make sure they know. You actually get more control in hypnosis, and just like when you're falling asleep at night, if someone's like, "Give me your bank account number," you're gonna be like, "What?" Yeah. You're still completely aware, and that's what it's just theta brainwave state. The boomers need a little bit more time in the pre-talk to, because they saw like I think there was like a weird movie or something during that time. And so they're a little bit, especially the boomer men, they need a little bit more...
more skeptical.
Yeah, they're more skeptical and a little bit more nervous, but...
I think therapy in that whole age realm is...
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Can you tell pretty quickly if somebody's going to be like, accepting of it, or they come in kind of skeptical, or they come in kind of resistant? Usually
by the time they're in front of me, usually they're already pretty sold because they've done a little research, and or they've met someone that I've worked with,
or they made an investment to come in, and they're willing to
totally. So and even if they're skeptical, they're like me, like whatever, just
need help. Yeah, I just want something to try to work. Yeah.
But I also do work with another company, a mental health retreat, and that's more like the hypnotherapy's on the curriculum, sort of. So it's not so much like I researched and I know this is it for me, and I know you and all of that, and I've researched you. It's more like this was on my schedule. Here I am. What are we doing? And so that takes a little bit more, and is so rarely someone's maybe not a good fit, but I do know pretty quickly. But I would say it's so rare.
Why do you, so I don't particularly know anyone who's ever at least admitted to going through, not that there's a stigma around it. I would be intrigued by it.
I'm the same.
But like, I don't know anybody. Like why do you think if it's so powerful, so powerful, why isn't it more mainstream?
Well, it will be. Like I'm telling you, in 5 years, if we have this conversation again, that's going to change. I really, really feel strongly about that. And there's there's a couple reasons, I think. A lot of people think that the hypnotherapists were a little bit of gatekeepers for a long time. And also it was a little bit more woo-woo and not mainstream, and I love woo-woo, but I'm also woo-woo optional. Like if you want the woo-woo and the cosmic stuff and all that, great, but we don't need the crystals or anything. We can get right down to the actual neuroscience of it. But I think it was a little bit more woo-woo, especially, again, because it wasn't regulated and because there weren't as many schools. And that just came around, in the last, I think in the 80s or 70s. And then I also think that the media has done a really good job freaking people out about things. Oh, they were hypnotized and then they did this thing. These storylines that included hypnosis. Sure. Like it is, it works really well for a plot line to be out of control, right? And something happened to the person, but that's not really the case. And I think also stage hypnosis reinforces that.
Sure.
And so when you have a serious problem, I don't want to go to that weird guy on the stage who was funny, entertaining, but like I'm not going to go to him who's going to tell me to do weird things and bark and make a fool of myself. So, and by the way, that's not real what they're doing, but it is all an illusion too. Those people, they know how to select the right people, and they are in a subconscious contract with that person that they have their approval to have them playing along.
Sure.
If they didn't want to, it wouldn't work.
They wouldn't work. Got it.
Yeah.
And so like what you talked about like why it's not mainstream. Like what are like a lot of the myths or apprehensions that you see from people, and like if you could just tell me like, why, like talk me into doing this because I want to try it. Like
well, I'm not going to talk anyone into it because it only works if you really, really want it for yourself. But the biggest myth, I would say, the absolute biggest myth is that it is that you lose control. And not only is it a myth, it's the absolute opposite. You are in more control, that you have this heightened awareness. You're in this incredible brainwave state that encourages creativity and learning and access to what our conscious mind kind of caps, and blocks us off from. So,
and that's theta you just said?
Theta, yeah. Usually like alpha, theta, in between those states. Right. And they're just slower brainwave states. And like I said, we go there all the time. But we're not using them therapeutically. But it's this incredible resource that we're not tapping into. But to convince you, it would just be the biggest concern for most people is that they're not going to be in control. That they're going to say something that they didn't want to or do something that I didn't want to. I'm like, first of all, I'm not even into that. Like I have no interest in making you say or do anything you want. But two, I do not have power over anyone, right? You go into hypnosis because basically there's a saying among hypnotists, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, that eventually we guide you into it, but it takes your will and your permission to go there. And so that's the biggest thing is the loss of control. What other things that people might say? Some people, I've never come across this, but in my training, and they were like, if someone thinks they won't wake up from it, I haven't come across that, but just basic things. Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
And just the knowing that it's natural. It's not like something that is created. It's just you allowing yourself to go.
Is there anything that typically, people have come to you for, but it like just doesn't work for? Like it's just not, that hey, usually I can't help you with that.
Yeah. You're saying after we're in session for a while,
Yeah,
or they
just
come to me
in general, like they came to you with, hey, I want hypnosis. I want hypnosis for this, and like it's just a no-go.
Yeah, some people want it for like. There's a very specific one I'm thinking, but
you can speak very openly.
Very openly.
Some people want it to like completely erase memories. I had someone that was transitioning and wanted to forget their former version of themselves completely. And I've had people who want to completely forget that their relationship with a parent or a sibling or whatever, a life circumstance, and it's not mind control, right? And
right.
you have a mind, and it doesn't work like that. But there's usually some negotiation, right? It's not like, the door's over there. Yeah. It's like, okay, I see why this is a struggle for you. Let's talk about it. Why?
Try to make it more positive instead of the negativity.
And what are you trying to get away from? And why do you want to forget that? And what positive thoughts are you wanting to, that you think that this will help? And usually it wouldn't be the answer anyway, right?
Sure.
They're trying to escape something. So it's about saying, okay, well, are you willing to work on cultivating that so that you are more inclined towards positivity, so that you are more accepting of your past and who you are and all of this? And if the answer is yes, then they'll still have tremendous success. But it's, again, when people think it's like, remove memories and things like that completely, it's like your brain's your brain.
Is it always one-on-one, or is there like couples? Like, do you do like, do you have like married couples that are going through stuff and,
So it's usually one-on-one. I would say 90% of what I do is one-on-one. And then I have worked with couples, but usually that's separate also because they're dealing with things separately and wanting to blend together, right? Sure. But like what matters to one versus the other is different. So it's going to be a different type of setting. But then after we work on those things, we can then come back together as a couple and then foster, a vision for them as a couple. But it wouldn't be, I don't think I've ever worked with a couple that it was straight into a dual session before we worked on what was in the way first, so that we can then build a realistic goal together. And then I do group sessions as well. And those are really fantastic. And I really
Like, what are some of the things for that? Like,
so I do like, there's still going to be more generic than one-on-one because everyone's got their own blend of whatever they're going through. But I've done a few relationship group sessions for people, in particular people that were finding they couldn't find love or that they were attracting negative relationships.
Like
And
retreat
so-
style, like you were saying earlier, like where, you're just working with a big group and just have a little bit of a session with them. I did that once with, not like we had a work kind of event, and we brought somebody in that does like meditation and stuff, and they did it as the group, and like it wasn't hypnotherapy in any way, but it was just like we did it as a group, and it was pretty like,
It could be powerful.
pretty
that was, I
powerful.
wanted to ask off of that. That was one of my
Yeah.
questions with like meditation, hypnosis, like what you're like what is the difference? I know brainwave wise and like how you would guide someone. Like, do you, like, I meditate, but I don't really know if I am. Like, I sit and listen to
most
music.
people feel that way,
But
yeah.
like, that's what, like with you, like you're bringing someone to that state of relaxation, meditating.
It's like time
what is-
traveling. Like you're scrolling Instagram, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
2 hours later, you're like,
Time distortion is the biggest thing. A lot of the times the first thing I'll ask someone after hypnosis is, how long do you think that was? They're like, 5 minutes. No, it was 35, 40 minutes, But for what you asked, what's the difference between meditation and hypnosis? There's a lot of it's very similar. So it is accessing that deeper consciousness, the super consciousness theta brainwave state. However, most people aren't really getting there into theta on their own. It's really difficult for most people, especially in our society, to get to theta, right? Like the monks do it, but I don't know how, I'm not
Yeah, like
even
I'll try
doing
and
it.
start
Yeah, it's
meditating,
not
and then all of a sudden I'm
impossible.
like, what am I going to eat for dinner tonight?
I mean,
Right.
it's obviously easier because you're guiding it,
Yeah.
right? You're guiding them in it, how to breathe, how to
Yeah.
I'm guessing, but
But if you do guided meditation, the difference is that you're calming the mind, but in meditation is you're clearing the mind, and with hypnosis we're putting into the mind.
I got it,
We're
okay.
putting in what you want, to make change, and then we're creating not only that through suggestion direct, but I'm creating scenarios where you're able to tap into that and feel that, and that experience of that feeling is again what imprints the subconscious and has you change. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So once it gets that feeling, you start to behave in a way that's aligned with that. And so that's the difference between meditation. Meditation is a beautiful thing, but that's clearing the mind. This is putting in.
Okay. And like you're seeing, like, are there obviously in the last 15 years that you've been practicing this, like, I can't imagine how many people are getting like social anxiety from social media. Like, is that
yeah.
something you're seeing a lot of, like dealing with anxiety? Like, what's the process for that? Because I know, a lot of people that are going to see this, I hate to talk badly about social media on social media right now, but like, are you seeing that? And like, how do you help people deal with that?
Huge.
Like, is there,
So anxiety is what I deal with, I would say, most in my practice, and I do a lot of the groups. Back to your other question, a lot of group sessions for anxiety, and I work with even the highest performers too, like tech CEOs and all these people that are still having trouble because like the access that the world has to us is just too extreme. I call it the quickening, and it's just not what we are biologically, designed for. And so, especially youth. I mean, I don't even think I'm totally equipped to deal with social media at every second, right? Without having tools. And so when your brain's not even developed, it's so difficult. But so I'm seeing a lot of that. And just like you can, abstain from other things, you can abstain from, you not fully, maybe if you don't want to, social media, but you can abstain from the doom scrolling. You can bring an awareness to these things and come up with boundaries that maybe you're not having success with, because it's so another way to program yourself. And the subconscious is repetition. And so when we repeatedly do the scrolling and repeatedly check our emails and it is getting deeper and deeper and deeper programming. And hypnosis is like a really good pattern interrupt, right? It's like you're able to, every time you do it, you catch yourself in the act and it doesn't feel so good anymore. The neurology changes a bit. And so, you bring, it's like you shine a light on those areas where you're just kind of working out of like an automatic habit.
So is there like an aspect to it that is changing? Well, talking about just staying on the social media track, but like you're just going dopamine hit, right? And then when you're working with somebody, you're basically trying to reprogram that to be like, hey, this is not a dopamine hit anymore. This is
We get to the truth of it, because if they're coming to see me about it, because for some people that might feel great. I have people who bite their nails who think it's the best, right?
Yeah.
And so keep it. But if you're coming to see me, then it's not the best, right? That you're getting a dopamine hit, but that it's actually really robbing you, and it's not your friend, and it's taking away family time, or it's doing, it's making you envious, or all of the so many different reasons. And so we just make that so crystal clear. And again, there's so many different tools that we can draw from, and whatever's most appropriate for them, we give you access to the reality of the situation, so that it can be like nauseating to go back, right?
Yeah.
You can get an aversion to it, or you just see it for what it is. Like the lie is exposed. And once you see it, you can't go back.
I feel that way a lot. Like when I'm going, I feel like social media just knows what you're going through every day.
Totally.
like the algorithms and have gotten so good that if you spend an extra millisecond on a post, or you read a comment, or I just immediately go down this rabbit hole of the next one, reinforcement. And like, I could consciously tell myself that like they got me. Like I know they got me, right?
You just bought something.
No, whatever it is, right? Like,
yeah, I totally agree with that.
but man, it is extremely difficult to break. And by the way, it like you said, it pushes you deeper into it, right? Because something's going on at home, and you're fighting with your wife, and all of a sudden you get like bad wife, right? Like you get all these like influencers that are telling you how you should be thinking and how you should be acting, and you
go into an echo chamber.
And you go into these echo chambers, and you're just like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, right? This is exactly how I'm feeling, and you're just trying to break it. But so I guess with the hypnotherapy, you're essentially kind of reprogramming that a little bit.
Yeah. So with some like this example, we're using the social media. We use social media for the most part. I mean, I monetize a bit on there, and we do other things, and I like to watch like puppies and stuff. But in general, we go there to check out, right? Yeah. We get that dopamine hit. Life has been a little busy, and so it's like my brain knows
I want to shut off.
Yeah, that I'm going to go when that happens. And there's so much repetition. So again, there's such a strong imprint in the subconscious, and the subconscious probably knew, wow, he's really stressed. This is a great tool to take that stress away, right? And he's this and whatever. So the subconscious has used this as a really useful escape tool at first, right? But that's an imprint. But whatever problem the subconscious creates, like good luck trying to solve it with your conscious mind, right? You can say to yourself, okay, but it's not reducing my stress, and I don't really want to be like reinforced when I'm thinking these bad thoughts. It's not working for me. But you're thinking that with 10% of your mind, which is your conscious awareness. The other 90+% of your mind is like, no, we said this is the good stuff, right? Like this is the escape button. Like this is good. And so it's a tug of war, and like who wins 90-10? It's going to always be there. And then the quickest way to really wire something in your brain is when you're in a negative state. The neurons fire even more and wire together. So it is like that doom scrolling where they know to keep feeding you, and then you go deeper and deeper. But like I said, with hypnosis, we can readjust and reprogram that imprint so that instead of it saying this makes stress go away, we bring a new level of consciousness to that, so it doesn't feel so good anymore.
Yeah, like I'll get myself so frustrated. I'll be like, I'll literally just throw my phone and be like, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah,
like
and you're not. It's
because it puts you in a bad mood. You're just like, I have trouble sleeping as well, and I'll be like up in the middle of the night, and it's super difficult to try to. I mean, I think life does it to you a bit in general. Like I run 2 companies. Like I'm very like always on. Like I don't get a chance to shut down ever. You know, people are looking, so you don't, you know, you look at it for an escape, but it's a reinforcer.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
Exactly. And so we make that so apparent in hypnosis rather than knowing that consciously. You really get the sense of where it's going with that and that it is negative. Also, it's useful to give you tools that it's not just ripping something away from you, but will also give you tools in hypnosis so that you can empty out that stress and have different ways to release all that pressure throughout the day. So it's not like you're at breaking point, right? We all are sort of, our thresholds have been met and surpassed,
yeah,
right?
by the time you wake up,
Yeah. So
your bucket's full.
I always say, yeah, like that bucket, once the water is all the way to the top, the slightest thing is like overflow. But when you have these tools that you're using through the day, and again, they're hypnotically anchored in, right? So that you use them more, although it does take a little bit of work to do them. You have more space and you're not seeking, the need isn't so great for that, right? And you could use other tools.
How about like diet stuff? Like I know that you talked about people with weight loss stuff. Like, like we see all these semaglutides, Ozempic, all that stuff's out. Like controlling the brain chemically to want that. But like, let's say someone comes to you and says I need to lose X amount of weight, want to get down. My goal is to get more healthy, my family, blah blah blah. Like, what are some of the how to walk me through the process for that?
So again, that's that's one of the presenting issues I worked with most when I first started out. Now people are just shooting up, so that has decreased a bit. But it's so funny because what I heard feedback wise, the emails that I would get and what people would tell me is the same thing that people say when they're using the peptides, right? It's like, I finally have control. Like I can go to the grocery store and I just look at the produce and I don't even care about the other aisles. And it's the same thing. But with weight loss, I would say it's so nuanced. So, some people have trouble with eating because they're anxious, right? And that's their escape. Like they kind of check out. Some people are consuming too much because they have a trauma from when they were younger and it was a protective mechanism.
Just a bad relationship with food.
Yeah. Well, or even, some women, women in particular, something would happen to them and they thought maybe because they were too attractive. And so there's a subconscious imprint to put on weight to protect, that they think that protects them. And some people, were forced by their parents to eat everything on their plate, or everyone in China would starve. Everyone has such an individual relationship with food. And so the approach is going to look so different. It would be so inappropriate to just do this one thing that you come to see me. So it's different.
How does that come out? So in your, I guess, sessions, right? You start these conversations, but I'm sure you have with some people, they don't even know why, right? Like you have to dive into it. Like if you asked me, I had a great childhood, loving parents, like there couldn't be a better childhood, right? But like, I'm sure I do some really weird shit that is like from something that happened from when I was a kid, right? Some experience that I had, nothing that my parents did, but just an experience, right? That I don't even know that it's affecting me, right? In that way. So you have to kind of get that out, right?
Well, look, the good news is you don't.
Okay.
So for some people it's right there, or some people it's close enough where you can go there or have them, it comes to them. I never force anyone to go back into a regressed state because the mind's not even a perfect recorder, right? Like the subconscious mind is watching every movie with you too, and it's influenced by everything. So it's not necessary for some people who know, like, hey, this is what happened, and this is definitely the problem. We can work with that and clear that because it's in the way, right? They're conscious of it. But for other people that they're not conscious of it, we don't really need to go backwards because as long as we know the end goal that we want, as long as we know how it feels to have that, what changes in your life, why it matters to you, how awesome it's going to be when you achieve that, we can just go forward.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that there's the negative impact probably for some people of like rehashing, right? Traumas is tough.
So you have, and in therapy, regular therapy,
they go there.
I say regular, like traditional therapy, you would have to rehash all that stuff, right?
Yeah. You don't have to, but that's probably what goes on a lot. And again, the support is there if that's going on for the person, then that might be appropriate. But if it's not, or if you don't want to, that is totally fine. You know, our skin scabs for a reason. It's to protect and heal us, and our brain sometimes doesn't remember and wants to move on because it's healing us. We don't need to go picking at things if you don't want to. In fact, sometimes people who really want to do that, I have to kind of nudge and be like, well, we don't need to keep going back because the goal is to move forward. So it's not necessary at all.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to therapy. I've done that. Like I've never left a therapy session happy. Never once. To the point that, like, you know, I would stop. I stopped going every time. I would be like, maybe I got to go, like, just try, because, like, whether I'm not sleeping or, like, you know, just have anxiety. Like I'm a pretty level person typically, like, but it's forced.
Yeah.
Right. It's 100% forced level. Like, I'm just bottling things up like a maniac. So like,
The
you know,
mind of Joe.
every once in a while you kind of try to, like, level yourself out and you search for something to do it. And, like, for me, therapy, like, I'd leave, I'd feel worse every time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all I did was talk about my fucking problems for the last hour.
A lot of people share that experience for some people, not all, and therapists are always different, but it can perpetuate things, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the experience with hypnotherapy.
So, like, I gravitated a little bit more towards, like, more of the coaching side of things now. Like, so I have, like, a business coach, and, like, we talk about things, and it gets personal quite often, right? Where we talk about, like, hey, how did we even get here, right? Or, like, why do you feel like that is happening at work, but it's also happening in your personal life? But, like, but it's really trying to find a path forward versus, like, talking about your problems. Where does hypnotherapy, like, sit in that? Do you think it's more of like, let's get past this, like, let's move forward?
It depends on who you go to, right?
Okay.
And I've been to a lot of hypnotherapists, by the way. Do your research, everybody, because they're all across the board, right? And so I would ask those questions too to people. Like, some people are fully regression hypnotherapists. It's actually huge. Probably the most common are regression therapists. Some people call it root cause, and it's only going back. For me, I don't work that way at all. I tailor it to each and every individual. And again, it's not necessary. So if someone really feels like it will help them and that there's a block because of something in the past, that's where we go. But if it's like, that doesn't work for me, this is the vision I have of my life, this is where I want to go, this is why it matters to me, that's really all that we need, is a willingness to move forward.
Could you, like, I guess, based upon those, like, willingness to move forward, give us, like, without names, you don't have to give specifics, like, give us, like, maybe some success stories. Someone that was dealing with, anxiety, depression. I think, the sleep problem, who in America doesn't have, our age have some type of sleep, so, something like that.
So there's so many success stories. They all blow my mind every time, even though I know that this work works. I still just, like, am in awe of the transformation it really can provide people. One of my favorite cases, there's so many, but I'll say one woman was so there's the generic kind of, like, the smoking cessation stuff, but someone who has smoked 53 years of their life, not missed a day, sick, rain, shine. And in one session, they just stop. That's always awesome. But then there are cases where someone's tortured for decades because of trauma happened. So I'm thinking about this woman in particular because I worked with her very early on and in my career. And she was in her 60s and she had a very traumatic experience happen to her in her 20s. And so for decades, she was carrying around the weight of it. She had generalized anxiety, panic disorder, and major insomnia, wouldn't even get near her bed. Sometimes would fall asleep at like 3 a.m. on the couch in her clothes because she couldn't she didn't want to go anywhere near her bed. And she was a high performer too. She had a good job and she was a lovely, lovely woman, but suffering for decades. Have tried everything, talk therapy, sound therapy, retreats, meditation, you name it. And in just a few sessions after working together, she sent me a text and we spoke after that too. But she said, I just want you to know I'm in my pajamas and my cozy bed, and my favorite time of the day now is being tucked into my bed, knowing that I'm going to sleep through the night. And so it was peace, right? This woman was able to get peace after decades of struggling. So you hear that all the time, but
Do you find that people are like coming to you because they've run out of options?
Yeah.
Right. Like
I'm kind of a last resort.
right. Like, because I mean, that's what it
feel like we should
sounds
be the
like,
first
right?
thing that
But
people
why
try.
is it? Why is it just because?
It's not mainstream.
Right.
And there's maybe a little bit of stigma of what's going to happen. Or maybe I met one hypnotist and they were kind of weird, like because
Sure.
it was, but I think it's more like people don't know. It's not mainstream. And again, I really think it will be in the next 5 years. And I hope that the regulations behind certification grows with that. But
Is there a regulating body now for it or no?
there's a regulating body, but it's pretty loose.
Okay.
Right. So, and I hope that gets pumped up alongside the marketing of it, because hypnotherapy is amazing, but you do want the right person and who has a lot of tools too, because if I use the same approach, even if I was good at that approach for every case, it just wouldn't work. But I think it is a last resort for most people, especially boomers, millennials, and all that. Gen Z is like now getting a little bit into it. But what I hear from people always, like what I hear most often is, I wish I did this sooner. I wish I knew this sooner. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I spent all of that time, money, energy, hope, faith, everything. And if I had just had this, it would have been the case. And that's not to say that it's like total abracadabra, that every single thing is completely dissolved within a couple sessions. Like, again, it also takes a willingness for that person to use the tools, to really believe in the possibility, to let the past version of themselves that was so identified with this and that couldn't have any hope because they went to 8-9 doctors and this many therapists, and to not relate to themselves anymore as that person because they didn't have this tool at the time. So that's what really makes a difference for people.
Do you see people like coming off of drugs in terms of like SSRIs, like just starting to like, I guess, find themselves after a few sessions saying like, hey, okay, I'm here. I found like this little level of homeostasis. All right, let's stop taking this now. Right. And see if
It's certainly, when someone does that, I always want to work with the doctor too.
Sure.
So I have seen that absolutely. And I've seen it happen so quick too. Even with things like Adderall, someone had 30-year Adderall addiction and quit within one session. Like, you see pretty amazing things. And with SSRIs, people start to realize that they actually have these natural resources of this like reservoir of joy and all of the positive emotion within them, that in fact our brains make the best drugs really there are. And so you can tap into that. And for some people, it is a wonderful, transition that they'll get from that. And then there's other people who I work with that are happy with being on their SSRIs, and it might be most appropriate for them to continue with their SSRIs, but most people I've worked with that are on these for a long term aren't getting those good benefit anyway, or at least not as obvious feelings, and they're still dealing with things. So this allows them to feel kind of the benefits again, or be able to access the inner reserves of those positive feelings while on their meds.
when people go through these sessions and they're having these positive outcomes of like, coming off of an addiction or drinking or smoking, do they still have similar like withdrawals from these, like, or is it kind of a different mentality around it? Like, I know everybody says like alcohol's the worst
To come off of.
right?
Yeah. And if someone's a true alcoholic, like that would be, and I work with alcoholics, and that's alongside a program.
Sure.
Right. But yeah, it can lessen the symptoms and also of withdrawal. And it can also, again, you have these tools that are hypnotically anchored in so it's not just like pulling the rug out from someone. You now have these tools that you can use that are very, very thoughtful.
Technically they're
and
making
useful.
the choice, right?
It's the choice,
They're not being forced to
because
do
they have
it.
to be like they have
they
to
have
make
to,
that choice.
yes.
I want it.
But I will say, like, I have some people who, like, let's take smoking as a big one with hypnosis. And some people, I mean, and again, they're smoking 40 years, like Reds, 3 packs a day. And they don't have, after hypnosis, they don't even have a craving. You can't even tempt them if you tried. They're like disgusted with it. And they never have a craving. And that's amazing when it happens, right? And it happens a lot. And there's other people that their friend that said that happened said to go in for hypnosis. And they're like, I'm so excited. I'm never going to have another craving. And they are the ones that do have the craving still.
Right.
But it's much softer craving, and they have these tools, and it definitely is easier. But it's not to say that it just will eliminate it. It's kind of an individual basis. But they're still quit, which they didn't quit, the 20 years that they were trying.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I'm excited to see this going more mainstream. Like, so I'm like, to make it easy for people to do this, so I got kind of two questions. So do you do more, is it like the one-on-one sessions like you do in person? Do you do, you do online? Like, is that possible?
I
with
do
this?
both. It's so possible. Most of my, I'd say now, like 60% of my business is virtual. It fluctuates from time to time, but most people are virtual. And even my clients that have been in person, and then we shifted to virtual, are like, actually, I kind of like this better because I can be in the comfort of my home, and I don't have to fight traffic. And ultimately, the change does not happen in my office. It's not because I have some magic chair. It happens in your mind. So it can happen anywhere. And so virtual works really, really well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There's some people that just really want to meet you face to face, and they feel comfortable with that. And for those people, that's why I keep an office. And that would be appropriate. But for the vast majority of people, they're like, oh, I don't have to go anywhere. Fantastic. And my life can change from my couch. Cool.
Fair.
Why Violet Grace? What's the story behind that?
There's so many reasons Violet Grace. That some of them are kind of long and boring for other people, but meaningful to me. So I think the one that the clearest one is that violet is the color of transformation, and grace is the grace that, whether it's God or the universe that you had, that was upon you when transformation happens.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There's sort of like a nom de plume too. Like when I started my business, for some reason it felt weird to be like Dayna Hart hypnosis. And I don't know why. Maybe I needed to be hypnotized, but this was sort of like, I like the name, it has meaning to me, and I went for it.
It's great. I like it. It can't be easier. Like, I'm definitely going to try it out. So
Yeah. It's really, really,
good.
like I said, it's fantastic. And even with my, when I went for sleep, and I have plenty of insomniac clients who, after 10 years of not sleeping, a few sessions and they're sleeping like perfectly. And so it works sometimes like that. Even for me though, like it didn't work like that for me. It was profound, and I saw the shift right away, but it took several sessions to kind of rework it. And I had health issues, so I had to kind of get into what I needed to do and to change. But I was so clear that it was like nothing else, and I was just in it, and it really, really was life-changing.
Yeah, because I've been like studying sleep. I'm not studying, but I've been very into the whole sleep science and all that stuff. Are there ways, like, everyone's got different problems with sleep, falling asleep, staying asleep, getting up too early, can't fall back to sleep if they do get up. And is that handled a lot in the subconscious as well? Or is that like, is there something like, can you help people that are fine to fall asleep but wake up every night at 3 and they're just up the rest of the night? Yes.
And there is, often a physiology to things, right?
Yeah.
And so some hypnotherapists like completely step over the fact that we have physical human bodies that have like needs, right? Yeah. They're like, it's all in your mind. I'm like, well, you gotta like take care of your body too. And so we look into some things like, what's your diet? What are you eating before bed? Like what are you consuming as far as your diet is, social media or things like that. There's things to consider, like people that wake up in the middle of the night. There's certain times we have a circadian rhythm, and there's certain times where the liver starts to cleanse and go into gear. And the body is doing things where if you don't have a certain diet, it might make more of kind of a noise, wake you up. There's certain stresses that are you not dealing with. So there's always like it's not a guessing game. It's really asking a lot of questions to get the nuance and to see, okay, if there is some sort of physical element to this too, what can we do to support that? But it becomes, all of our physical experiences are from the mind, even if they are real. Even something like pain. Someone gets shot in the leg and they go to the hospital. They're not putting morphine in the wound. They're putting morphine in if it works on the brain, and then your experience of that is changed. You don't have it. And so your experience of sleep can be kind of reprogrammed so that you see yourself as someone sleeping through the night and not needing to wake up unless something was absolutely needed your attention, and having suggestions that allow the mind to readjust that it's safe. But you also want to check in on on what else we can do to support your physical body too. Same thing with the wound. You wouldn't just be like, here's your morphine, go home. You'd be like, let's put a little, stuff on the wound too.
From a biological standpoint, when you're doing hypnotherapy, there's something going on from a biological standpoint, right? That is, whether it's, chemical reaction or...
Because of hypnotherapy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so cool actually. I love when my clients wear their aura rings, because they get like notified, like, are you sleeping? And and they heard every single thing. They're doing the cues that we're doing, and it says that they're sleeping. And there's been brain scans that show different areas of the mind that are engaged. So it's absolutely a
That's
physical
really cool. I'm
thing.
interested in that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
It's really cool. What is your one, moving forward for your practice? What like where ideal clients? Where are you located? Where can people find you?
So ideal clients are people who are willing and ready and excited about change, right? Who believe that change is possible.
Is there an age range? Like, is it like, do you work with children?
Like 14 is usually
14.
yeah. And by the way, though, hypnosis is fantastic for like young children because they're not so set in their ways, and the subconscious still is a little bit more malleable. Like they get it quicker. So if for anyone who has small children, that like find someone that works with small children. I don't. I work with like 14. The brain gets a little more developed. But it's amazing. They take to it very, very quickly. But so 14 to like however old. And again, my number one demographic is people who really believe that the change is possible and who are willing. And, I would say what I work with most is anxiety, nervous system regulation. But
Is it typically like post some sort of event? Like, or is
anxiety?
Yeah. Like, are you seeing like people that are just like,
COVID was a big one.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, hey, COVID really jacked me up. I can't leave my house. So like we have this line in the sand event that has caused something, and
COVID was
I'm
the
trying to
biggest
get
one
over
I've
it.
seen. Yeah, but usually it's some sort of an event that happens that triggers it, and oftentimes there was maybe something underlying.
Sure.
They ran a little bit anxious or a little bit this way, but that tipped the scale. And COVID was the biggest one I've ever seen for sure. And there's so many, some people can't get out of bed, and other people are very high functioning, but they are really suffering inside. And that's a lot of nervous system dysregulation too. And the nervous system is a part of the subconscious mind. It's not a conscious thing. You don't consciously say when something scary happens, you're not like, oh, you better freak out, like activate your sweat glands, panic. It's unconscious, right? So if it's in the subconscious, we want to address it on a subconscious level so that we can get messages of safety to the subconscious and give you the tools to start to get back the control that's taken from those people so that they can trust that their body is going to respond appropriately in situations again. So that is the biggest one. And yes, there's triggering events, but then also people who've just always had, that affect or, and it can be very, very successful for really everybody. But again, I work with that the most, but also every single week there's still my golfers, there's my smokers, the fears and phobias, insomnia, all across the board, or just goals. A lot of people think it's only when there's a problem, but it's fantastic for, like I said, the golfing. But like I do really well in business, but I've just kind of hit a plateau, and I want to go further, and I know that I can, but for some reason I'm not doing it. And it's like, let's go. Let's get access to. I always say hypnotherapy is sort of like taking a meeting with yourself on a very deep level, and you get a lot of clarity.
And then, so how do we sign up?
Oh, so yeah, how to find me. And so my Instagram is at Your Violet Grace. So YOUR Violet Grace, You Are Violet Grace. And my website is violetgrace.com. Although Instagram will give you a little bit of an idea of, me a little bit more and what I work with. And you can reach out anytime. What I do offer is free consultations. So especially because it's, people are curious and want to make sure it's the right fit and get into rapport with me, make sure I'm the right fit. And so there's a free consultation, about 20 minutes that we can schedule. And then if it is, we'll gauge. I like to do at least 3 to 6 sessions. And I know not know like crystal ball no, but I have a feeling of what would be most appropriate. Most people will be around the 3 mark. And then those sessions are scheduled a week out from each other because I want to keep momentum. So we want to make sure they have time for that. First session can be up to 2 hours, 1.5, 2 hours, and then subsequent's about an hour.
And the office is in Connecticut.
The office is in Connecticut. It is in Ivoryton, Connecticut, a really wonderful place called Privé Suisse. And then virtual, wherever you are, where I work with so many different time zones already. So there's no
I was going to
limit.
ask that. So
So you can practice anywhere, right?
Qatar, Kuwait, California, London, all across the board. I could practice anywhere. It's all,
awesome.
yeah.
No, this was amazing.
Very
I think
interesting.
Thank you.
I really hope that from what I've read about it before you coming on, I was like prepping myself a little bit and just seeing how like you're like why don't more people do this?
Totally.
Right? Like
I know.
I couldn't,
Yeah.
I can't, and you make it so easy. I hope
Yeah.
that this.
Listen,
I would have never thought it could be done remotely, by the way.
That's I
Yeah,
would never,
no, it works fantastic remotely. And like I said, I didn't know about it either for so many years struggling. And I really thought I was trying everything. And it was, you asked about Violet Grace. It was like a moment of grace where I was just like, what about that weird thing, hypnosis? and then it was just, wow, like the doors really opened. And so it's like such a pleasure to now be on the other side of it, helping people. And I hope it becomes more mainstream and people get what they need sooner.
Yeah, well, Dayna, we appreciate you kind of coming on and
thank you
talking
very
to us. I
much.
think this
Thank
is
you,
going to be
thank you.
awesome.
This is awesome.
And
Thank you guys. Yeah, it was a pleasure for me.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.